Hi, everyone, and welcome to Living Overseas on a Dime. I'm Noel,
I'm Jenny.
and today we are going to talk about the possibility of retiring in Mexico City. So, join us today for our straight talk where we'll give you the pros and cons for retiring in Mexico City. Here we go. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the pros, but remember, everything here is just our opinion. We're just giving you our opinion on what we think about Mexico City, as we have in previous videos about Puerto Vallarta, San Miguel de Allende. We're just giving our opinion after staying there for almost a month and traveling around in the area. So let's get started right now with the pros.
So, first pro is museums, just different activities you can do. Amazing. I think it's probably one of the best cities that we've ever been to. Other comparable cities, we were saying maybe Paris, Rome, New York City. Yeah. It has that huge city metropolitan vibe. I think they said there's more than 150 museums in Mexico City. The only other city that has more museums, I think they said, is London, England.
Yeah.
So
even more than Paris, which blew me away.
Yeah,
they're all over. There's museums everywhere of every shape, everything you can want, modern art, ancient archaeology, like everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And like a good example was when we went to go see the Diego Rivera murals, and that was just at the education building.
Yeah, it wasn't even a museum.
Yeah, it wasn't even a museum, and so it's just at this education museum. We're looking at these beautiful paintings,
yeah,
and then we're walking on the main floor, and there's a museum on the main floor.
And that was all free, wasn't it?
Free, yeah. For us, anyways. I don't know if it's normally charged, but yeah. So literally, there are museums everywhere. Anything that you'd like to see, they have, trust me. So just it blew our minds, right?
And it wasn't expensive.
No.
Like I think it was $85 for adults to get in, and it seems like that might be at least a citywide price, maybe nationwide, for museums.
Yeah, when we went to the anthropology museum, any of them, most of the time, even the castle in the park, $85, and then coal was free.
Yeah, children under 12 are free, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't expensive at all, and it just really amazing for such a big city. Just we ticked off maybe 5 off our list, 6 off our list. You could literally spend months seeing all the different museums and things like that.
So if you're a museum lover and you love that sort of art and culture, Mexico City should be very high on your list.
Yeah, you shouldn't be bored in Mexico City.
So the next pro, and this was a huge one for us, was the green space, specifically Chapultepec Park. That place is amazing. It's called one of the lungs of Mexico City for a very good reason. There are thousands of trees. It's a beautiful space for running, for walking, for trying to do the paddle boats, which we utterly failed at.
Yeah, and I think they said it's bigger than Central Park, right?
Yeah, it is. And there's like actually 2 parts to it. And that's not the only park. There's green space everywhere. There's trees everywhere in Mexico City.
And we were shocked about that, right? Yeah. Like even the neighborhood we were staying in, even like downtown, you'll see just huge boulevards with tons of trees. Parks everywhere, like not huge parks, but still pretty good sized parks everywhere. And they're older parks. They're beautiful. They've got fountains and they're used. Like a lot of people go to these parks. They're super active, right? They're not like they're dead parks. No one's there. People are gathering around the fountains. People are going about their business, doing activities in the parks. We saw dancing classes.
Yeah, that was very cool.
People getting together to do hip hop and just having picnics in the parks and getting together. So super active parks.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because Mexico City is often portrayed as this like super industrial, like kind of like a New York. Not that New York is like this, but the way a lot of people think of New York, it's like this polluted, busy city. But you know what? Our experience was anything but that. It's super green with tons of people out and enjoying it. Yeah. And the green space there is just fantastic.
Yeah. So the next pro is the food.
Oh my God.
Oh, so good. And you know what we loved about it, and I think you agree with me, is you could get your local tacos sandwiches,
Yeah,
you
the
name it.
tortas. Yeah.
But you could go high end restaurants, lots of those as well,
Yeah.
and everything in between. There were pizza places, super international. We went out for Japanese. We
Yeah,
went out
Korean.
for Korean.
Yeah.
Lots of East Indian restaurants. You name it. Like you can find everything there at every price point too.
Yeah.
So we loved it.
Yeah, and you know what? That for us was a little bit of a cross to bear in Mexico City, which we'll go into a touch in the cons. But like the food is amazing in Mexico City.
It's really
There's
good.
just everything you can imagine.
And again, that goes with it being an international city and a huge population, right?
Yeah.
Like you really, when you in a bigger city, you just find that kind of variety too, right? So, and really good quality.
Yeah, really good. So our next pro is that of transportation. And we kind of mean this in a couple different ways.
Yeah.
Mexico City in a lot of the neighborhoods is really walkable. And for us, that's a big thing. And it's beautiful. You got the trees everywhere. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is something we didn't really have in our list, but the colonial architecture is just gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's so nice. It's not the same as San Miguel de Allende.
No.
It's not that older Mexican style buildings, not at all. But you'll have these cool modern skyscrapers and then an older Spanish style kind of government building. It's hard to explain without walking around.
And then you'll see beautiful churches everywhere.
So it's walkable. You can walk around. Of course, you need to be cognizant of the time of day and whatnot and make sure you're not in a sketchy neighborhood. But like the neighborhoods are very walkable. So on top of that, as part of this point, this pro, is the transportation. The transportation in Mexico City is fabulous.
So good.
The subway system covers most of the city, and anywhere that the metro doesn't cover, there's actually a great bus system that a lot of people don't mention that pretty much covers all the other areas.
Yeah.
As long as you have their MetroPass card, I can't remember exactly what it was called.
Yeah.
You can access all of these buses, all of the subways for very low cost. I think it was like 8 pesos or maybe even less. Yeah, it was
pesos.
Super low.
Yeah.
And it allows you to go all over the city.
And don't hesitate to use the subway. We've watched lots of vloggers who are like, we're getting on the subway now. We hadn't. Now, we've taken the subway in lots of cities when we travel, so we love the subway.
Yeah, we love the subway.
But don't hesitate. And we'll tell you why. It was super safe.
Yeah.
On every platform, we always saw police, or every second platform, we always saw transit police there.
And they go on the subways too.
And they go on the subways too.
Yeah.
And, be safe about it. I wore my backpack on my front so people can't pickpocket. But in general, super safe. And they even have women's cars, which I've never been to a city that has
I think maybe Japan.
But so I don't know if that was on every subway platform, but a lot of them, you'll see it. It's kind of at the back, and it's just for women and children. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate. The subway we took a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, more than buses. We only took buses once or twice, but you take the subway to your neighborhood and then you can walk around.
Yeah.
We loved the subway. Don't hesitate to use it.
Yeah. And you know what? Transportation for us is something we look at closely at every city we consider.
Yeah.
So it's a major, major pro for Mexico City.
For sure. Weather. This is the next one. Oh, now, of course, coming from Puerto Escondido, it was so hot there. And when we got to Mexico City, we actually were wearing our sweaters the first day.
It was funny.
It was such a drastic change, but a pleasant change. Now, what months were we there?
May into June. Yeah.
Okay, so May to June is one of the hottest times of year to go, and it was beautiful. By the third day, we were wearing shorts and t-shirts, not sweating, a perfect 25 degrees, sunny, not raining, and not humid, just perfect weather.
And then even when it went above 25, up to 28, 29, because it was so dry and pleasant, it didn't really feel hot or uncomfortable.
No, so the weather, great. Highly recommend it.
So the next pro, and I think this kind of goes for Mexico as a whole, is that the people in Mexico City were very friendly. And it's funny because once again, like I mentioned before, I think Mexico City gets a touch of a bad rap, and it's not deserved. Anytime we ran into any sort of issue, someone would come up and try and help us. And, even I remember we went for tortas at one time, and we were chatting with this nice business guy who spoke great English, actually.
Yeah, and we even were in one of the rougher neighborhoods, by the big chapel there, by the big basilica, one of the bigger, huge markets. I think we were the only ones there.
Yeah, you're not supposed to go there. It's apparently the highest murder rate in all of Mexico.
I mean, it was during the day. It wasn't at night, and it's a cool market. I highly recommend it. But we had totally gotten turned around. We were asking some of the shop vendors. They had no clue. We were asking the police. Yeah. They had no clue. But we had a good laugh. Everybody was super helpful. So super friendly.
And this also includes the expat community in Mexico City, which I think a lot of people, when they're thinking like Mexico, they think Puerto Vallarta, they think San Miguel de Allende. Mexico City isn't the first city that comes to mind with expats. No. Now, that being said, the expats in Mexico City are a bit of a younger demographic. They're more digital nomads and whatnot. But we did meet some older people, some people with families, and everyone was so nice. Like, I remember I asked this one young woman who was at a cafe, like, how was the internet speed there? And she was like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And she was, where are you guys from?
And she even recommended some other cafes that had good speeds.
Yeah, it was, you know what? The people, both Mexican and expat in Mexico City, were very, very welcoming. It was very nice.
Yeah. The next pro is it is dog friendly. If you're a dog lover, Mexico City is your place.
Yeah. Pero.
I mean, and they're just so darn cute. Yeah. I mean, really, the parks, everybody has a dog. Yeah. I mean, we were shocked, right?
Yeah. Like, and you know what? Most people take good care of them. The dogs are a big thing in Mexico City. I'm not sure about the rest of Mexico, but it is dog land. Yeah. It's you got the doggos playing in the park. Certain parks are more dog friendly than others. I think Chapultepec, you're not allowed pets, actually.
I can't remember.
But certain parks are definitely more dog friendly. People are throwing the balls around. There's lots of dog obedience classes.
Yes.
Where you'll see the teachers lining up the dogs to do push-ups. No, they don't do push-ups, but they're doing different stuff.
But even you'll see like lots of restaurants have dog bowls, like with water for your dog if you're eating at the restaurant. So super dog friendly.
The next point in our pros is something that Mexico isn't generally touted for, or that's internet. Now, the place that we were staying was a kind of older hotel, so it didn't have great internet. Yeah. But a lot of the internet cafes, co-working spaces, and even the internet you can get into your home if you're living there is fast. It's fiber and it's fast. Like, I was getting speeds around 50 megabytes a second when I went to the cafe, which I was very happy with. It's definitely equivalent to Canada. I don't know what the rates are right, but I was very impressed with the internet speeds. So if this is something that matters to you, which like say maybe in like Puerto Escondido or Sayulita or some of the smaller places you just can't get, Mexico City is great for the internet.
So next point is the Uber works really well in Mexico City. Now this is super important. The taxis.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second in the cons.
Don't take the taxis, but we highly recommend the Ubers. Yeah. We took them everywhere. And they're cheap, affordable, super nice, right? Yeah. We had no problems with the Uber. So really, you don't think that's a big deal, but it is, trust me, especially in Mexico City. Yeah. So Uber, super reliable.
Yeah, you're pretty close to your set price. You can pay by card, so you don't have to pay by cash. We paid by cash, but there's the three of us. We weren't super worried, but there are a lot of advantages of using Uber. It says where you're going. It's being tracked.
Super safe.
You can call a friend, say, hey, I'm going from A to B. Yeah. And it's something that I think is important for most people.
Yeah, especially in Mexico City. So we highly recommend the Uber.
Okay, the last point in our pros, which is one of these pro and also a con ones, because we'll go directly into that in the next part, is the Mexico Airport, CDMX.
Yeah.
Now, CDMX is a highly connected international airport where you can go close to anywhere in the world. It's fantastic. You can get direct flights to Europe. You can get direct flights to Asia. You can get quick flights back home to the US or Canada or wherever you're from. There's also direct flights to South America, Colombia, Peru, Chile. Anywhere you want to go, you can go from Mexico City. So that way, it is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so for now, that wraps up the pros. And we will go kind of straight into the airport when dealing with the cons. Okay, so now we're going to go into the cons for Mexico City.
And continuing with that, again, the airport.
That's
now,
right.
We've traveled a lot.
Yeah.
All over the world,
Yeah.
lots of airports, and I am telling you, it's got to be one of the, I'm not going to say the worst. I'm not,
Yeah.
because it's not.
No.
But it's very disorganized.
They're very confusing.
Very confusing, and we are not the only people. You check in your bags, okay, fine, you can figure that out. But once you get past, it's crazy.
It's a mess.
You don't know your gate until like an hour before your flight leaves, and it's
which may change.
Which may change.
Yeah.
So you really have to be cognizant of that. Like, so it's an hour before your flight. It's a big airport.
Yeah.
You're always looking to see if your gate has changed or if your flight is leaving early. How many people did we see running to the gate and their plane had left?
Yeah, we actually saw multiple people. We're talking like 10, 20 people who were trying to board a flight to Guatemala when we were waiting for our flight to Puerto Escondido, and it was gone. And like one poor guy broke down crying. I don't know what the story was. It was like a soap opera.
Yeah.
But like really, there were multiple people. So obviously there is some massive disconnect with communication where either it was changed to an earlier schedule or who knows what. And man, like, thank goodness it didn't happen to us because, you know, we've seen some other vloggers who have straight out missed flights because they just didn't know.
Yeah, so always check the gates. They're always changing gate numbers or they haven't assigned the gate numbers yet. Also, another thing is no English at all. And so one thing we didn't know when you're getting on the airplane, especially in Mexico City, actually this is everywhere in Mexico, but we didn't really get it until we were in Mexico City, where they call like 3 lines at a time.
Yeah,
so it'll be like
airport,
row 1 to 3 and then 3 to 5 or 5 or 6 rows at a time. So if you don't know your numbers, we luckily when it got up to the higher numbers, we're like, and people were helping us out. Like, what rows did they call?
Don't hesitate to ask someone.
No.
We always would. I'd be like, oh, you know, my Spanish is bad. What row are we on? And they're like, oh yeah, your turn. I'm like,
no, we're not expecting them to say it in English, but you know, for a big international airport, it was the first time where they didn't say anything in English. So they'll be like calling stuff on the intercom, calling people by rows, and we had no clue what was going on. So just to be aware of.
Now, keeping that in mind, really, these were with domestic flights, like Viva Aerobus and those sort of airlines. So they're all internal, so that may be different with big international airlines.
So just be careful with Mexico City Airport. You really, really, really have to watch what time it leaves, if there's any changes, and your gate numbers, because they change it on the fly.
And give yourself lots of time to get through the checkpoint. The security checkpoint, they are thorough. We had to take all of our stuff out.
Every electronic
out. We had like 6 or 7 individual baskets for our computers and stuff. So just give yourself time.
Yeah. So the next con is the pollution. Now, funny enough, the time of year we were there was barely any, and we were really happy about that. We had heard about the pollution and how bad it was. Now, we're not saying it didn't exist, but it didn't affect us that much. Like, we weren't coughing from the pollution. It wasn't hazy in the sky. Like, we had no problems with it.
And May is often the worst month, apparently.
So we had heard about it, but you know, we had no issues with the pollution. Now, that being said, I guess if you have major lung issues or asthma, you might, but we don't per se. So we didn't have problems with it. Now, I'm sure some years are better than others, right? So look at your pollution index, but by and far, we were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And it's, you know what, the reality is in developing countries that there is pollution. This is true in Southeast Asia. It's true in the Middle East. It's true in Latin America. And, you know, it's not hardcore polluted every single day.
No.
And I don't think it's something that should deter you from at least checking out that place, in this case, Mexico City, as a potential retirement destination.
Yeah, go and look at your pollution indexes. Like, look at the history of the year. You know, if you really are concerned about it, go when it should be really bad. and then check it out and see what your comfort level is with that pollution index, right? And like you said, some months are better than others. So
Okay, so on to probably one of the bigger hot topics in the cons, and we're going to include it as just discussing Mexico City as being a really large city, maybe a mega city. It's one of the largest cities in the world, and really some people don't like that. They maybe want something a little bit more accommodating, somewhere where you can know your neighbor, sort of thing. But you know what, there's lots of little cities that are kind of these neighborhoods that make up the giant mega city of Mexico City. So like we found that people don't let that deter you with the size. Now, that being said, the size of the city also comes with safety issues. There are parts of the city that you want to definitely be very hesitant to go to, even though we went to the one. I'll put the name down here. That where the market was during the daytime, that was a touch sketchy. But you know what? It's not somewhere I'd want to be at night. That's for sure, especially if I was a single woman or something like that, which obviously I'm not. But it's just something safety-wise you need to be aware. But like this is no different than Los Angeles, New York City,
Any
Toronto,
big city.
Vancouver, wherever, where you need to be aware of where you're going. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't be drunk out of your mind going and have no idea where you're going with strangers, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just big city street smarts. Pay attention to what you're doing. Now, that being said, something else you need to really watch for in Mexico City, and this is part of the safety, is the taxis. And, we had heard about it, and we had, for the most part, stuck with Uber. And we'll just do a quick thing about it. How we had a negative experience coming back. We were at the train station, or the bus station, sorry, catching a cab. We were going to do Uber. We were tired.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's just take this cab. And the guy got in. He's like, oh, meet her. We're like, okay, whatever.
He seems super nice.
Yeah, but it was a 100% scam.
Yeah.
By the time we were 5 minutes in, it was over 100 pesos, which is what we had paid for Uber for the entire ride.
Yeah.
And by the time we got close to our place, it was like 400 plus. And we ended up just saying, look, buddy, no, this is not going to happen. We're not paying you that much. I think we ended up paying 200 or something. But anyways, lesson learned. And it's something that you need to pay attention to safety-wise in Mexico City. And that's why we were saying, like, be careful with the taxis.
Yeah.
And we strongly recommend Uber over taxis in Mexico City.
Yeah.
But also just be aware of your surroundings and pay attention and try and pay attention to safety.
And when we were talking about this, I never went out at night by myself. During the day, I did.
In the day you did.
Yeah, in the day, but at night I didn't.
Yeah.
So, again, I saw lots of females with friends or with a group of people at night.
Yeah.
So, did I feel safe walking around at night by myself? I didn't do it. And I saw a lot of women with groups of friends. I'd say travel with groups of friends just because it's a bigger city anyways.
And we'd say that in New York,
Yeah.
Los Angeles, Toronto,
Any city.
Vancouver too.
Yeah.
Right?
But one nice thing I did say to Noel is there's a big police presence because it's a huge city. And I actually like that. Like walking down the street, you see like a truck, not just with one cop. There's like a group of 3 or 4.
Yeah, sometimes 6 even.
Sometimes 6 in a Jeep. And you would see that not on every street, but every 3rd or 4th street.
Yeah.
And then again, police and the subway systems. So I liked that there was a big police presence just because they were always around. If something had happened to me, I'd feel safe going to them.
One other part of the big city that we'll just touch on here is that the rents can be a touch expensive for Mexico. Now, that's not that you can't get something under, say, 15,000, which is around like $750 US, 1,000 Canadian. You can, but you have to look. And you're not going to find some of those deals that you might find further south in Oaxaca City or Puerto Escondido for like, $500-600 a month. Once again, you can find those, but those may be not in areas that you want to live. It's something you need to pay attention to because you want to be in the areas that are safe to live in.
So another con is the high altitude. When we flew there, I'd say the first 2 or 3 days, we felt it. Like we had a bit of a headache. You know, we would walk around and get pretty tired after like a couple of hours of walking around, but we did get used to it. What, 2 or 3 days?
Yeah,
maybe?
it didn't take too long. But if you have lung issues and you have concerns about that, it's definitely something to be careful with.
And just don't overdo it.
Yeah,
Take it
easy.
Let yourself acclimatize. Like it's a little bit over 2,000 meters, so it is pretty high.
Yeah,
like,
which is over 7,000 feet.
Yeah, so it is pretty high. Just to be aware of. Give yourself a few days, and it should pass within 3 days. So.
And if not, you know it's not for you. Okay, the next con, though it's maybe a pro for some people, is there really isn't a ton of English. Now, there is some. We encountered a few people who were more than willing to speak with us. But, you know, we saw at the airport and kind of around town, even at the metro stations and whatnot, it's mostly Spanish. Yeah. And so if you want somewhere that's more of a soft landing where there's tons of English, Mexico City isn't really for you.
No. So another con is mosquitoes. Now, we were shocked about this.
Yeah,
we're like,
totally shocked.
Pollution, you know, bigger city. We got eaten alive.
Yeah. We're from like the capital of mosquitoes of Canada, Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Where they're this big and will eat your head, like sort of thing.
So we were shocked. Like our hotel room, there was no screens on the hotel, but beautiful windows. We open up the windows. Oh my!
Yeah.
There's mosquitoes. Yeah. So just to be aware, there are mosquitoes in Mexico City.
Okay, our final con is not a huge one because it doesn't really occur that often, but it may be a concern for you. And that is that Mexico City does get earthquakes. There have been a couple that were rather large, and it's just something that you need to be aware of moving there. If you're completely uncomfortable with earthquakes, it maybe isn't the city for you.
Yeah.
So the big question on your minds is, would we retire in Mexico City?
And I think the answer is
yes, absolutely. We love Mexico City. It was like a romance from day one. We
fell in love, right?
Yeah.
We literally got there and we couldn't stop looking at the buildings and the green space and the trees and it's just got a charm that we can't explain. Yeah. Almost as good as Puerto Vallarta. Like it's high on our list, but the only problem with Mexico City is there's so many activities and so many good restaurants that I think we would need a bit more money in our budget.
So who knows, if our investments skyrocket and we're doing super great with money in a few years, it's a very big possibility.
Yeah.
And I got to say to anyone out there, if you have hesitated to go to Mexico City, don't. Go to Mexico City. Yeah. Check it out.
Yeah.
You will not regret it. It is a fantastic place that we love, and who knows, we may end up living there someday.
And I hope this video helped.
Yeah, so you know what? We went into our pros and cons. Once again, it's our opinion as to what we think of a place, but hopefully it has been of some help to you in deciding if Mexico City is a place you want to live or retire.
So if you have any great experiences or any experiences about Mexico City, put a comment below. We'd love to hear from you and what you thought about Mexico City.
Yeah, so have a great day, everyone. Stay safe and happy travels.
Happy travels.